In a valley surrounded by ancient mountains and crystal-clear rivers, there was a small village where everyone knew each other by name. The houses were simple, made of wood and straw, and the sound of the wind blowing through the bamboo groves was the constant soundtrack of the tranquil afternoons. In this place lived two inseparable boys, 7-year-old Taro and 11-year-old Kenji. From a young age, they became soul brothers. They shared food, games, and even dreams of one day becoming great warriors, like the heroes of the stories the elders told around the fire. Kenji was quick, fearless, and spoke loudly. Taro was smaller but curious and persistent. They complemented each other. Where Kenji saw adventure, Taro saw challenge. And where Taro saw fear, Kenji saw courage. They grew up together, learning from the small victories and falls that childhood brings. One summer afternoon, the sky was clear and the heat made the air shimmer over the wheat fields. The two decided to race to the hill behind the temple, where the wind always blew strongest. "If I win, you'll have to give me your little blue stone," Kenji shouted, already sprinting. "Only if you can catch me before the bridge." Taro replied, laughing, trying to keep up. They ran without thinking, jumping over stones, dodging branches, leaving behind the distant sound of the village. But in the midst of the euphoria, fate prepared the unexpected. Hidden under leaves and moss, there was an old, forgotten well, deep and silent. Kenji, distracted by the game, stepped exactly where the ground gave way. A crack, a scream, an emptiness. Taro stopped, stunned. He heard the noise of the fall, then the sound of the water being agitated below. "Kenji! Where are you?" he shouted, his voice trembling. A muffled answer came. "I fell. I can't get out. I can't swim." Taro's heart raced. He looked around, but there was no one nearby. The village was too far away, and running to get help would mean leaving his friend alone. Despair gave way to a raw, instinctive courage. He didn't think. He just acted. Near the well, he saw a rusty bucket attached to an old rope, probably used long ago by hunters. He grabbed the rope with both hands and threw the bucket into the well. "Hold on tight, Kenji. Don't let go," he shouted. Kenji gripped the bucket tightly, and then the real battle began. Taro planted his feet on the ground and pulled. The weight was enormous. His small hands burned from the friction of the rope. His body trembled, his muscles ached, and sweat streamed from his eyes. "I won't let go. I won't let go," he repeated to himself, like a spell. Time seemed to stop. The wind blew, carrying dry leaves. His heart pounded so hard it echoed in his head. With each pull, the boy felt his body give way, but the will to save his friend was greater than the pain. He pulled with everything he had, and with everything he didn't even know he had, until, with one last effort, the rope moved a little more, and a wet hand appeared at the edge of the well. Taro shouted, grabbed his friend's arm, and pulled him out. The two fell together onto the grass, exhausted, breathless, covered in mud. For a few seconds, neither of them could speak. Then Kenji began to laugh, nervous and relieved. "I thought I was going to die," he said between laughter and tears. "And I thought I was going to leave you there," replied Taro, still lying down, breathing deeply. "But who else is going to beat me in races now?" They stayed there for a while, watching the sky that was beginning to darken. When courage finally replaced fear, they returned to the village. They ran through the dirt streets, shouting that Kenji had fallen into the well and that Taro had saved him. But instead of surprise, they heard laughter. "A little boy like you pulling someone so big?" said one of the men, laughing. "You can't even lift a bucket full of water, Taro," mocked another. The two boys fell silent, the glow of their achievement slowly fading. Until a voice rose from the crowd. It was Old Master Haruto, the elder of the temple, known for his wisdom and serenity. He observed the boys with a deep gaze and then said calmly, "Perhaps you are laughing at the wrong thing. The question isn't how he did it. The question is why he did it." Silence spread. The old man continued. "There, in that well, there was no one to tell Taro that he was too small, too weak, incapable. There was no one to say, 'You can't.' And for that very reason, he could. People lowered their heads in shame. Haruto looked at Taro and placed his hand on his shoulder. When the mind is silent and the heart acts, the impossible bows before the will. That night, the entire village heard the story of little Taro, and, although he didn't understand why everyone looked at him with such admiration, he slept peacefully. Within him, something unseen but felt had been born, a silent certainty that true strength doesn't come from muscles, but from self-belief. Years passed, and whenever someone doubted their own abilities, they remembered the boy who pulled his friend out of the well simply because he didn't know he couldn't. And so, the old saying of the valley transformed. Doubt weighs more than any stone. Self-belief is as light as the wind, and yet, it moves mountains. Moral of the story: limits only exist when we believe in them. When the voice of doubt falls silent, the strength we ignored awakens.